Hi, and welcome to That's So Nova. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. Today we're going to be doing the Mirabel tote from Bagstock Design. This bag is super fun to make, and it is a nice size tote. And when I mean nice, if you like big bags and you can't deny, then this is going to be your perfect bag. It took me everything in my power not to laugh when I said that. I've been holding that joke in this whole time while making this bag. Okay. The size of this bag is 14.5 inches wide, 11.5 inches tall, and 5 inches in diameter. It is a big tote, and it can hold a computer. It can hold a lot of great things. And the great thing about this bag is that it has, a zipper pocket in the inside. It has like 2 slip pockets on the outside. It has a zipper pocket on the exterior. But if you are pretty savvy and you've made a lot of different pockets, you can probably do some fun modifications to make this bag even more special. It has a fully enclosed zipper on the top, which I absolutely love. So if you're a person that does public transportation and or have a job that is where you need to have your personal items fully covered, and you don't want anybody to have any access or peek inside, where there's instead of having a recessed zipper and there's a little bit of exposure inside your bag, this is the perfect bag for you because there's no exposure. Okay, so let's get started. So after you've done all your prep work, we're going to go into the handles and the strap making. So with the strap, there is a cut list that is on there where you will cut 4 inches by the measurement that is given into the cut chart on how long you need to make it. You're going to fold in your the 4 inches long sides to meet, and you could see that I have a nice 1/8 of an inch down the middle, so that way when I fold this over on itself, it can collapse without having a bulge. For the handles, there is a measurement as well as threads apparently, and I'm gonna now remove one side of the double-sided tape and start pressing this in. You guys are a little bit further up because this bag is bigger, and I'm trying to make sure that I can show you everything in the bag. I will try to bring you guys closer on more detailed parts of the bag, but it's a big bag and I want you to see the whole grand scheme versus seeing parts of it and you're like, I do not know where this part is on the pattern. I usually do the handles and the straps together because I just kind of do it with chain stitching all at once. Now for this part, you can take some clips and clip along once you fold it over on itself. I usually don't. I find that it's easier just to use my fingers, but you do you. Whatever's easier for you, that's the way you do it. I start with back stitching at the beginning and at the end, and we're going to go sew at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. This bag is super domestic friendly, industrial friendly, and semi-industrial friendly. It's mostly about finding out what materials work for you. In the tester group, there are people that made this with upholstery fabric. There are people that made it with cotton woven. There are people that made it with canvas, vinyls, you name it, it was made. The thing about sewing, I think what makes the difference between a beginner and advanced is not the sewing machine, is knowing your limits and the fabrics that suit your machine. And then on top of it, when you know your machine, you can know the capacity of, maybe I can sew leather on my domestic, if I use a hump jumper and a leather needle, and so on and so forth. Once you become one with your machine, the sky's your limit. And then I'm going to back stitch here, and then I'm going to bring in my crossbody strap. I'm going to back stitch again. So we're getting closer to this. And on the other side, I like to kind of let my sewing machine fly. Generally before any sewing project, I change my needles. I see if my machine needs any oil, because I'm on an industrial, and if I put any oil in my machine, I usually like to let the machine like run really fast, so that way it can get to all the gears. So I kind of let the machine fly as fast as it can go, so that way it can ensure that the oil is getting to all the gears that it needs to. I know it sounds funny, but that's generally what I need to do, what I usually do. Okay, so I'm just going to hop on over a few stitches. And then we're going to on the folded edge, follow that 1/8 of an inch mark, and then right when you're about 2 inches from the bottom, I'm just going to hop on over and backstitch and start on that handle. If you're a quilter, you're so familiar with chain stitching, it's not even funny with your quilting blocks. Just use that same premise when it comes down to handles and straps, and you'll save a lot of time. So I am going to remove any excess threads, and I'm going to take our strap and I'm just going to put it aside for right now because we're not going to need it. We're going to need our handle in the next step. We're going to need our handle, and we're going to need pattern piece A, and we're going to be doing some markings. All right. So on pattern piece A, we always want to find our center. And if you want to, you can do a small little snip, or you can do a mark, whatever is easier for you. So I'm just using a silver marking pen. All right, so we're going to base these on 3 inches apart from the center, okay? And once we base these on, we're going to measure up 1.5 inches. And we're going to sew a box. I'm trying to get into the previous hole so it can look like thicker thread. And when I do that, for some reason, I can't talk and chew gum at the same time. I can walk and chew gum. I'm trying to get in to get that as perfect as I possibly can. If you know, you know. That doesn't look too shabby. All right, you're trying to make that perfect box. And we're going to do that over here too. All right. Trim those threads. And now we're going to go and we're going to do the pocket on the exterior. Okay, so we're going to take the Mirabel tote template, and we're going to, on our exterior front zipper, going to trace this template on. So it has a center mark, so use that center mark and create a center mark here, draw out that template. We're going to then take our exterior piece that we have and find our centers and make a snip or draw a line, whatever's easier. And we're going to then match our centers, and then we're going to sew that box that we trace. I find that a smaller stitch length is useful and helpful to get around the curve, and it just makes a nice clean finish. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to of course backstitch. All right. So it should look something like this. Just little stitches. And then I'm going to trim inside of here. She says leave about a 1/4 of an inch. Seam allowance. You can use regular scissors. I just like using the pinking shears when there's a curve, but you don't have to do that. Okay. And then we're just going to finger press. And what I like to do is, because I'm using waterproof canvas and vinyl, and it's not the easiest to iron down. It's possible, but it does take a lot of tack. I'm just going to put some double-sided tape here and just roll the seam down. and just gently press this. I'm going to do the same on the sides real quick. And this is not the stickiest tape. This is I think this is tape that I got for Jupiter Made. It's not the like rippable one, as you can see as I'm cutting it. And honestly, it won't hold too long. It's not my favorite tape. But it does its job for the short amount of time it's going to be up there. All right. From here, we are going to just like leave this aside for just a second. And we are going to start working on the zipper pocket. We're going to take this and our zipper tape and place it on the zipper pocket. And baste this on. Okay, and we're going to kind of finger press this down and then baste this down again. Okay. I'm sorry, before we go to lining, we have to do the rivets. I did two rivets on this side, so I need to go ahead and do 2 on this side. You need to measure a 1/2 inch up and to the center, and you need to punch 2 holes. You know, when I finish one side ahead of time so that way I could be more productive, sometimes I always forget about the rivets. And they're the most important part. They anchor your strap below. It sounds weird when I'm punching because I'm using that. It's like the foam is like there's no air or anything, so it sounds weird. All right, so make sure you get your you get the right size rivets. Don't get them too long. You want it to be about 1/8 of an inch or less. And because I'm using a foam, I'm doing like scraps of like a stabilizer, like a Craftex or a like a Craft Text or Decaville Light or Heavy that I have scraps of, and I'm putting it on the back because this is vinyl. You see how it's like flush about less than 1/8. Then I'm going to take this and I'm just going to put this on the back just to have it has something to anchor to, that it won't pull through this, you know, pillable foam or the vinyl, because the vinyl has no stabilizer. So I want to make sure that this section has some kind of stabilization in case someone pulls on the back straps hard or whatnot. And I'm going to show you on the other side. I did the same thing. It's just a common practice I do. And then when I push down on my rivet press, the press goes down like 2 times. And you can see I did it here too. It's just something I do. All right, now we can go over to the lining. Okay, so we're over here at the lining. You're going to get pattern piece I, and that is going to be your interior zipper pocket facing piece. You're going to draw the box. You're going to draw a zipper box. A zipper box is quite easy. You're going to draw 3/4 of an inch lines on the long ends and the short ends. Once you do that, you will have a nice box. Once you have the box, you're going to bring it over to your sewing machine and you're going to sew around this box. Once you do that, you'll have something along this lines, a nice clean box. We're going to then cut it out. And not cut into the stitches. Okay. I'm gonna Okay. I will now bring this to the wrong side of the waterproof canvas. Normally I would use cotton, but I didn't have a cotton that I liked for the exterior. And when that happens, which I absolutely hate when this happens, I am stuck with kind of just like, okay, I'm just going to go with waterproof canvas or water resistant. Okay. All right. All right, so we have that. We have our box, zipper box, all out, checked out. Now we're going to create our zipper pocket. So we're going to let that go over here. And we're going to make this. We're going to put pretty sides up on both of these. And we're going to baste this zipper pocket on. Okay. Once you got that basted, you're going to want to see the pretty side of the zipper to the wrong side of the zipper pocket, and we're going to baste this down. I was going to say like the ugly side of the waterproof canvas, but then I'm like, nah. The word ugly is ugly. Like, it is just not a great word. It's like kind of atrocious. Like, I don't know. We have to come up with other words. So we're going to do this again. We're going to put this to the right side of the pocket and baste it on. Like, when I was in elementary school, saying somebody was ugly was like the worst thing I thought you could possibly say to someone. And I still think that is like the most horrendous word. So then we're going to then fold this down on itself and baste it down. You really don't need double-sided tape for this. Bagstock doesn't heavily use a lot of double-sided tape, and I think this is why sometimes everybody has their own niche, and I think this is why a lot of people don't complain about gummed up needles and stuff, is because a lot of the prep work is like you basting and whatnot and working things out. From here, we have it like this, all right? We cut out our box. We kind of jumped ahead and cut out our box first. Now, she doesn't put double-sided tape here. She kind of just like does this. And like you could pin it in place, especially if you're using cotton. You can just like pin this bad boy. But because I'm using waterproof canvas, I can still pin it. I'm just going to use some double-sided tape. You don't have to. You can use magnets, like So-Tights. You can use pens, because again, you can use pens. I've shown you guys before in other videos that waterproof canvas, you can definitely use it. But for the sake of not having a long tutorial, some of you guys absolutely love long tutorials. Others are like, why is the tutorial so long? You can't please everybody, unfortunately. I'm going to find a happy medium and put some double-sided tape. I'm going to put my zipper pull on the right-hand side so I can close to the left. Finger press my double-sided tape down. And I'm putting this right on the edge of the zipper tape. And this, if you see, the zipper tape is like the same size as the zipper facing. So there shouldn't be any confusion on how far or how long, which side you should put it on. If it's not on the same length as the zipper tape, then one side has too much of the zipper tape, if that makes sense. I like when designers do that because it's like easier math, like your math is mathing. Okay. All right, then we're going to do our thing and stitch. I am not pulling my threads. I'm going to back stitch in the box areas, and I'm also going to back stitch on the other side. Not only for the symmetry, it's just that these are high points of stress, and also we're going to be turning through our pocket, so it's good to have some reinforcement stitching. But if you don't want to birth this bag, I will talk to you about some things that some of the testers did. There were some testers who actually did it as a drop-in lining, so we could discuss that as well. All right, so we're going to fold this down, the top part of the pocket, and I'm just going to grab a clip on this side and grab a clip over here and just trim up this top part. I mean the bottom part to meet the top. And then I'm just going to fold this so this can be right. I'm folding it in about a ½ inch. And then we're going to close up our side pockets. Just on the side, not the bottom. And we're going to close up the sides with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Back stitch well at the beginning and the end. Okay. All right, so we're done with the zipper pocket, and I'm going to open up my zipper pocket because I would put this in with it not being open. See my hand? Da, 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 da. Okay, that is one pocket that's open. Put this on the side, and then we are going to now work on our slip pocket. So we have our cutter piece K. You're going to put the long sides together, and I put a nice little pad, a tag. You could put a tag, no tag, it's really your discretion. And I just basted this together so that could just be easier when we put this next step together. We're going to draw a line And we're going to fold the long edges together. I'm putting a piece of double-sided tape because the picture in the photo, it's more like, again, like a cotton woven. And I want this to be like the same material as the exterior strap, so it could be a little bit more cohesive. Again, I'm a little bit extra sometimes. I'm just going to take my seam roller to get it as flat as possible. Okay. And then we're going to fold this over on itself. And because I want it to really stick down, I'm going to put a piece of double-sided tape right here. It's nice. So we're going to top stitch this not only at 1/8 of an inch, but at 1/4. So I'm going to start at the 1/4. I'm just knocking over a bowl full of clips. Okay. Then at 1/8. Okay, we have our nice little trim. Then we're going to gather this and we are going to measure 3.5 inches down. What I think is the most handiest thing to do is to get a ruler or your placement. If you have a gridded ruler and find the 3.5 mark and put little marks right there and there, and then you can put the placement. It could be a little bit hard at your sewing table and you're trying to do this and you're trying to balance it. Having a little markers can be a little bit easier, and therefore you can just clip it into place and it might be a little bit easier to kind of maneuver. Also find my centers here. Because you're trying to find your centers, you're trying to find how far you're supposed to go down on to make it the slip pockets, you know, feasible and workable. All right. And we're going to base that in place. I'm just going to place that on top, or this is a little bit heavier. Place that on top so there's no shifting. Or you can place a couple pins. All right. And I have my center mark, so I'm going to go down, across, up. And I'm going to go back and forth here, go back down and across. I'm not going to go onto the vinyl. I'm just going to kind of go back and forth like a little T. I'm only going on to the vinyl on the sides. All right. Then I'm going to trim off the excess by flipping it to the back. And I'm going to put a rivet right here, and then we're going to work on the side connectors. All right, so I put a rivet in here, and again I backed it with some reinforcement of some stabilizer, and there we go. So let's get into the side, I can't talk today, the side exteriors and the side stabilizers. So again, I'm using foam. The side pieces have, the sides have these really cool bridges. I was really excited about these because the simple fact that I have all these bridge connectors that I bought like a couple of years ago and I never used. But I know that some of you are going to be like, I don't have these side bridges. What else can I use? I had some other ideas. If you had these really cool ones, I think any connectors can be used. So if you have like long johns, if you had some of these, I know I had a couple of variations of the bridges like this. If you even did like a hidden connector with a D-ring or a rectangle ring, it could be done. It doesn't have to be these bridge connectors. However, if you do have them, then now you have an excuse to use them. I thought that it was like such a cool way to utilize a piece of hardware if you had it in your ooh, I'm just dumping all these screws, in your area for a while, and you're like, I haven't used them, and I don't know what I'm going to use them on. Well, now you get to use them. So I did everything towards the back. I drew a template. I measured down the markings that are on the back of the pattern of how far you need to go down. And then I, again, used my silver marking pen, drew the 2 holes. I punched them out. And I, again, because I'm using foam and vinyl, and my vinyl is not interfaced with anything, I'm using some stabilizer on the back. I'm sandwiching that in behind the metal connector. And this part is always like a little difficult for me. It may not be for you, but it is always for me. I put the screw in, and I just had my I just had my screwdriver. And I'm just going to slightly tighten it and then grab another screw. I'll line up all the holes. Let's see. And then I'm going to tighten it good. And now after this, if you want to use something like Loctite to really make sure those screws don't move, you definitely can. You can go from there. So I have these now 2 fully assembled side pieces, and now we're going to get started. Now, I forgot in the beginning to show you how to put on your back feet. So I take 1 foot, and I put it through a hole that I punched, and I gently open up the prong, and then I put it through the washer and I press it open. From there, I put some foam stabilizer and press it closed. And then I am going to put my foam stabilizer over it. Make sure this all fits. Oh my goodness. Once it's over that craft text, it is like, I am not going anywhere. And I'm just going to trim any excess that's hanging out on the side so this next step doesn't accidentally eat up excess stabilizer. Because sometimes your girl's not the best at eyeballing. We've discussed this. All right, so in this next step, we're going to take our stabilizer and, our bottom piece and one of our side pieces, and we're going to place it together. And we're going to sew it together using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay. We're going to do that on the other. We're going to do that. We did the 1/2 inch seam allowance. I know you want to trim it. Don't do it yet. We're going to open up the seam allowance. And we're going to top stitch it. And it's a big seam allowance, so you can open it up on your table and kind of pancake it open. And we're going to top stitch it at 1/8 of an inch on both sides. And before you say, Shanova, what's going on with your machine? It's the foam. The foam sounds like that when I sew. I don't know why. It's just the way this particular foam sews up. It sounds like bubble wrap. I actually like the sound of it, actually. Most of the time, when I first sewed with it, I was like, why does my machine sound that way? And then I was like test sounding like different samples. And then I realized it was the foam. It took me a minute. It took me a minute. I don't even want to admit to how long it took me to realize that it was the foam. We're going to do the same on the other side. This gets big, guys. So for the people in the back, if you can't see the whole entire gusset, I am sorry. I apologize. My table's not that big. And also if I widescreen out so you can see the whole entire gusset, somebody will say that they can't see the close-up of me sewing. So I apologize in advance if you can't see the whole entire gusset. It's pretty big, so a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, so we're going to do this again. We're going to open up the seam and we're going to baste 1/8 of an inch on both sides of the open seam. You can just kind of roll things up too to see if when things are getting bigger, just like you would do like a quilt or a garment, like a pair of pants or a dress, just so you can get everything done. Okay, so you have one long piece like this, okay? You're going to do that to the lining piece too, all right? Now we're going to grab an exterior piece. We're going to clip. I like to clip one right here and clip on this side. Follow along with the pattern and you'll watch. You're only going to sew down the side panels. You're not sewing down the bottom. So only the side panels. You're not on the bottom. I repeat, you're not sewing down the bottom. We're going to sew a 1/2 inch down the side on both sides. So if you had a piece that was kind of wonky, this is where you can make up on. Okay, we're going to do it on the other side. Use as many or as few clips as you desire. Don't let anyone clip shame you. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and do this on the other piece like that too. Okay, on the other exterior piece. So clip, I like to clip the top just to make sure everything is aligned and even and flush at the top. I do the same thing on the bottom. We're going to do a 1/2 inch. Okay, let's do it on the other side. Trim those threads. All right, so we did it to all of this and we did it to the lining pieces. So now we're going to see how this bag really gets its shape and its unusual bottom. All right, so for the lining piece, there is something you're supposed to do, and you don't have to do it, but it makes the bag look nicer. You start at the 1/2 inch and then you sew gradually at 5/8 of an inch. The reason why you do that, it gives the bag, when you open it up, a nice taut lining. It's not saggy or baggy. So you can do this, and if you're a person that has a hard time doing this, what I recommend is on the back of your side pieces is to start a 1/2 inch line. And then like after like 1 or 2 inches, draw a 5/8 of an inch line. And therefore it'll be easy for you to follow on your lining pieces only, not your exterior pieces. Again, not your exterior pieces, just your lining pieces. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do some trimming. We're going to leave 1 inch at the top and I'm going to leave a little bit at the bottom. You'll see why. So I'm going to leave about 1 inch at the top untouched and about 1 inch at the bottom. We're going to trim this to about 1/4 of an inch. you're leaving the seam allowance open at the bottom and the top for the following steps, so it can help reduce bulk. Okay, so at the bottom, you can see there, you're going to open up this seam allowance and you're going to match. So you're going to poke out this box area like this. Poke out this box area and match these two pieces. Okay, let me do that again. It's like this. And you're going to open up this seam allowance and match it. And you're going to just clip it. You're going to move it on down. And this is open, so you're going to open this one up. And you're going to match these two as well. Okay. So our next step, so you're pushing the corners, this corner out. You push the corner out to the side, and you're pushing the corners out to the side, and you're aligning these two seams. Okay. After you do that, you're going to sew using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm going to get some more clips. They're just getting thrown at me now. Ugh. And you're going to sew this bottom 1/2 inch from in all the way to in. You're not stopping anywhere. You're going across the whole perimeter. All right. Get my threads up. Okay. All right, a 1/2 inch. Back stitch at the beginning and the end. Okay. All right. We're going to trim those threads. And we're going to do it again. Pushing the corner out to the side. Lining up those seams. Corner kicked out. When you turn this right side out and see the bottom of this bag, you're going to be like, oh, the corners of this bag are ridiculously cool, because that's exactly what I did. We're going to sew at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And back stitch. All right, we're going to trim these seam allowances down to 1/4 of an inch. All right. And when you do the lining, you're going to do the same thing. Now, we birthed this bag through the zipper pocket. If your foam or the materials you use, let's say you're trying to use alternative, let's say you're like, hey, I want to try Decaville Heavy, Bouncy Firm, Peltex, just a number of different foam, different materials, and you're like, I don't want to birth through that. You could do what I'm going to be doing. I left a pocket on the bottom of the lining. What I did is that I kicked my lining pockets corners to the edge, and I did my pleats, and I only sewed 1 inch in and 1 inch in, and I left this big wide birthing so I can go through my zipper pocket. I can go through my zipper pocket and pull the lining out and close that off. That is an option. It's not in the pattern. I just wanted to give that as a, hey, if you're at this point and you're like, I don't know if I could pull it through my zipper pocket, there's always that as an option, okay? All right, so let's get our main zipper pocket pieces. So on our main zipper pocket pieces, you need to cut your zipper tape exactly to the measurement that is asked above. And we are going to find your centers, and you're going to baste your zipper tape basted on with your machine, not basted with double-sided tape. It will help you in the end. You can try, or you can look at what I'm doing and you can kind of see why it may not be as advantageous as you want it to be. I know it's very easier to do it that way, but there is always a method to the madness, okay? So we're going to base that on using a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then we are going to sandwich this in, and we're going to sandwich this in with the Decaville Light part here, and we're going to sew that with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay. When we're at this point, we're going to finger press this back. I'm just going to take a couple clips because sometimes my lining wants to fight my exterior and I'm not trying to fight it. I'm going to top stitch this only where the zipper tape is. So I'm going to start at the zipper tape and back stitch. I'm going to hold the lining nice and taut. Okay, and we're going to do it again on the other side. We're going to find our centers. And we're going to base this zipper tape onto and then we're going to, again, put your exterior piece on. Okay, we're going to, again, sew only on, top stitch only where the zipper tape is. I think I might need to change my bobbin after this. Bobbin, don't fail me now, though. All right. All right, and then we need to put our zipper pull on. You could have put it on earlier, but you know. Putting my zipper on right. I'm trying to get it as even as possible. Okay. So from here, we're going to put right sides together, exterior, right sides together, lining, and just because I don't like having messy, I always like to butterfly my seams open when I'm sewing. So I'm going to just put a clip in both, so that way when I top stitch, when I'm piecing these together, the seams are butterflied open. All right. So from here, we're going to clip this together, and we are going to sew this with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Back stitch at the beginning and at the end. Okay. 1/2 inch. I think it's pretty cool how she makes this. It's like this really cool like puzzle that comes together towards the end, and you're just like, how does she do this? All right. So we're going to start pressing the seams open and then kind of folding this in on itself like a triangle. And just clipping it together. And then same thing on this side, on the other opposite side. I kind of just use the same clips because we're going to open up the seam, fold it, All right. So from here, we're going to measure 1 3/8 of an inch. And this should be about 3 1/4 of an inch across. And she's absolutely correct. So we are going to sew that line. And then trim. Okay. And you're leaving about the seam about 1/4 of an inch. We're doing the same thing. Leaving 1 3/8 of an inch. Sewing that down. Okay. Leaving about a 1/4 of an inch. And it's important to leave that because remember your zipper is in there and you don't want to have your zipper like just having 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so now you have this nice enclosed, no raw edge. Zipper. Recessed zipper. Like, and it sits really nicely. We're gonna open these side seams open. And we're going to clip and baste together because we're going to be doing some stitching. So we're going to clip this all the way around and then we're going to baste it. All right, so you baste around this whole perimeter of this bag. If you have like a stretchier vinyl, I suggest you using, if you're using, whether you're using woven, cotton woven or like water resistant and or like waterproof, you have your waterproof canvas on top and then your vinyl on the bottom, because whatever machine you're using, whether it's domestic or semi-industrial or a industrial, the woven interface on the top will help prevent the vinyl from stretching too much. So once you have your bag all basted, the next step we're going to do is, this is why you had the Decaville here closer to the zipper panel. You're going to kind of, you can clip or you can eyeball, your choice. You're going to fold this down and over, and you're going to stitch 1/8 of an inch with smaller stitch length across here. And you can back stitch the beginning and then at the end. By doing this, it's going to give a nice crisp look to the zipper palette. It takes nothing but a second, but this one little stitch, look, you can see this is like nice and neat, and this is kind of sunken in. So we're going to do the same thing on this side. All right, and we're going to do this again at 1/8 of an inch. All right. All right, so we have this. So we're going to get our lining part of our bag. And I like to make sure that I have my zipper going the same direction as my lining zipper pocket. So I have that. I'm just going to make sure that these are centered. And I'm just going to start clipping this in place. All right. So we have that all clipped up. So we're going to baste the edges of this together. And try to keep your seams as open as possible. It just helps in the long run. That was going to be like the end game. Honestly, I kind of like this. Oops. And I told you I was going to have to change my box. You know, this could come out at a better time, though. Get this done now, so that way when I do my top stitching, I know I have a full bobbin. I kind of like basting this step first because it just literally makes sense to me. Because it becomes one unit, and then now you can focus on just putting the exterior and the interior together. I'm not trying to put 3 units together and causing unnecessary panic, you know? All right. Trim off excess threads. All right. Now unzip the main closure, and you're going to place your exterior right side out to your interior. So we're going to sounds like it's like a dinosaur had arthritis in the morning. See, it has like little, like the feet on this, the corners of this bag are freaking adorable. All right, so let's put these handles down. All right. Let's get squishy with it. I'm just gonna do kind of like the preliminary clips where like the sides meet the sides. And then I'm going to start pulling down like straps and just make sure that everything fits nice and taut. Take it a few inches at a time. Okay, I only see one or two areas I need to really ease in. And I wanted to do this in real time with you guys and not show you a finished thing and you're like, wait, I didn't, what? Because I always feel like when it's an unusual spot, you need to see. See, I'm just bending the bag inwards. Just really working in whatever area I think needs to work. And yeah, I'm an over clipper like 100% when it comes down to like easing in something, because it might just be that area just needs a little bit of TLC with clips. All right. So once we have that, we need to sew this bad boy at a half an inch all the way around. Take your time, back stitch at the beginning and at the end. If you need to use a stiletto, use a stiletto. Remember, if the ripple shows below your needle, it's going to show on the outside of your bag. If it's above your needle, it won't show. Okay. Moving clips out of the way. Readjusting. If you readjust like I am doing, needle down, guys. Needle down. That's all you gotta do. And there's nothing wrong with readjusting. All right, guys, we did like the hardest part. Now we're going to trim this down to 1/4 of an inch. All right. And then we birth it. And the reason why I have this big hole is because that sticky foam sometimes can become unsticked if you try to birth it in tight places. So, and you heard it sounding like a T-Rex with arthritis. So I want to treat it with as much TLC as I could give it. So I'm just going to reach into my lining. Just close off that lining wall. And because I made the lining, I sewed with the 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, I want to make sure that I do the same on this side, on the bottom. Remember, we sewed with starting with a 4/8 of an inch, a half inch seam allowance, and we veered to a 5/8. And on the bottom, I sewed 5/8 so that we could have a nice top lining, and that's what I'm doing right here. And then we, like the direction says, we trim this with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, we tuck that back in. We poke out the corners. And before we close up this zipper pocket, you make sure that your corners are poked out on your exterior of your bag. And we're going to close up our zippered pocket lining. Okay, and you're going to sew that up. Top stitch it with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Back stitch well at the beginning and the end. Okay, and then you're going to just put that in, poking down the corners to make sure it's flat as possible. I never poke down my corners until like I'm sending the bag off to a customer or if I'm at a show, and then I'm like, oh goodness, the corners. All right. Let's get this pushed in. Again, this is a really massive bag. It's perfect for an everyday bag, a commuter bag, just depending on what you want this bag to be. If you've been wanting to know how to put a fully enclosed recessed zipper, this is the perfect bag for that. Look at how beautiful that is. And see, when you do that 5/8, it's nice and taut in there. It's not like a super baggy. You can see you have your slip pockets right in there, your zipper pocket on the side, and you have all that nice space in the compartment. And you can give it a good seam press with your roller. Just getting those corners really good. All right. So our last step is that we need to top stitch this bag at 1/8 of an inch. Now I'm going to trust my bobbin and I'm going to sew from the lining. And I'm beginning to really like sewing from the lining because I can then gauge to make sure that my exterior, my lining doesn't go higher than my exterior. Even with that, I'm just going to put a couple like clips so that way as I'm sewing, it doesn't go, I can just make sure that my lining doesn't go above my exterior. I'm going to start in on a side and I'm going to back stitch. All right. I'm going to try to squish the bag down as much as I can. Bear with me. I don't mind if the exterior peeks through over the lining. I just don't want the lining to peek through over onto the exterior, I mean. And just be cognizant of your handles. And all we have to do after this is to do our strap. And if you want to, you can do a webbing strap. You don't have to do the strap that we made in the beginning of this project. It's truly up to you. Okay, we're almost there. Perfect. Trimming threads, which your girl is struggling at right now. All right, okay. Oh, I love that. Nobody going inside your bag. You can display a beautiful piece of fabric or art all over. You have a beautiful, nice zipper pocket in the back. This is a lovely tote, and I can't express to you how much I love these. Like, they're like little belled feet. They're unusual because of how the application and how we do them. It's so cool. So the last but not least is we are just going to fold over and make our strap. We're going to, our strap comes together fairly easy. We're going to take our strap and we're going to fold over about 1.5 inches. And you're going to hole punch, or you can, if you're using webbing, you can sew a box. I'm going to use this. Hole punch a rivet. And we're just going to put I had a rivet, I promise you. And you rivet through. And again, you want it to be kind of flush. You don't want it too big. And we're going to set that. When I set it, I kind of feel 2 pushes. It's set. You're going to take a swivel hook Feed it through. Then feed the open end to your strap over and down, making sure that it's all nice and straight. Grab another swivel hook, fold this over about 1.5 inches. And again, find your center. And we're going to put another rivet. Now you can do like a cotton webbing and or make a padded, have like a padded crossbody. There's a lot of different things you can do with this, but having like a matching strap is always nice, because you can always like sew your name tag or your business tag into your strap for an extra like little pizzazz. It looks nice. But yeah, we are done. You just made your Mirabel, and I absolutely love it. So if you have any questions, leave comments down below. If you like this pattern and this tutorial, if you can leave a comment, like, and subscribe, it helps your channel out tremendously. If you like this channel and you would like to learn more about different kind of tutorials, modifications, I'll put information about my Patreon in the description box and also in the post-it pin notes. And I will talk to you guys later, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day. Stay whimsical.